Hello, humans. The internet is full of people who look different and somehow sell the exact same life. One calls it soft life, another discipline, another calls it healing or feminine energy. One man sells suffering at 5 a.m., another sells peace with expensive matcha and lighting. From linen to activewear, they're all whispering about alignment like they negotiated with the moon. But scrape off the aesthetic frosting, and it's the same fantasy underneath. A calm, clean life that feels perfectly under control, where you wake up right, glow right, and never look cornered by modern existence. Mass selling the same dream in different fonts, different mugs, and different moral language. It's not different lives, it's the same life wearing wigs. And the funniest part is that every niche online acts like it discovered some rare sacred truth no one else has access to. The productivity people think they are building discipline. The self-care girls think they are healing. The soft life crowd think they are escaping hustle culture. The luxury people think they are raising standards. The therapy language people think they are becoming emotionally advanced. The minimalist people think they are purifying existence. The morning routine people think they are ascending into a higher human operating system. But strip away the branding and it is the same pitch every single time. Become calmer, cleaner, prettier, more valuable, more in control, more desirable, more healed, more complete. That is why all these corners of the internet feel weirdly familiar, even when they swear they are different. They are not selling separate philosophies, they are selling different costumes for the same person. What all of this content really sells is a life that already looks solved. That is the real drug. Not the matcha, not the skincare fridge, not the 7-step morning routine in beige lighting. It's the feeling that this life is emotionally assembled. Their kitchen is calm, their body under control, their habits clean, their nervous system apparently signed a peace treaty. Their face looks moisturized enough to forgive their childhood. That's why we watch. Real lives, they feel messy, noisy, and late. So when the internet shows you a life with no visible chaos, it doesn't just look attractive, it looks like relief. If you copy the visible pieces, the invisible panic inside you will finally sit down and behave. That is the emotional scam. They are not just selling routine, they are selling the fantasy of a life with the internal noise removed. The aesthetic keeps changing, but the fantasy stays exactly the same. Last year it was clean girl, then soft life, then healing era, then feminine energy, then high-value discipline, then intentional living, then slow mornings and some woman slicing fruit in silence. But underneath it all, the promise never changes. You will become calmer, prettier, more wanted, more centered, more expensive looking, more in control, more like the kind of person who does not cry while replying to emails. That is why these trends keep mutating. The outfit changes, the color palette changes, the breakfast changes. The buzzwords change, but the product stays exactly the same. A fantasy version of adulthood where your life feels polished and meaningful. The internet does not really sell lifestyles. It sells the same emotional promise with seasonal packaging, new font, same delusion. Why does aesthetic content work so well? Because most people feel messy inside, not cute messy. Actually confused, overstimulated, and ashamed that being an adult feels like assembling furniture with spiritual damage. So when the internet shows a life that's smooth and organized, you don't just admire it, you crave it. Because it looks like relief. If I buy that same cup and wake up at 5 a.m., maybe my thoughts won't attack me in waves. This content targets your internal disorder. It sells structure to people who feel shapeless, and identity to people who feel like 12 open tabs in a wet trench coat. It's not taste, it's hope. This whole thing is an identity marketplace wearing the costume of lifestyle content. Nobody is just selling you a candle or a journal. They are selling you a version of yourself. A calmer woman, a sharper man, a more aligned, magnetic, expensive-looking version. A version that seems easier to love, easier to respect, easier to post. That is the actual product. Not the object, the identity attached to it. Buy the matcha, the planner, the silk robe. Maybe you can purchase your way into becoming someone whose existence finally scans correctly. The internet is a giant haunted mall where every store promises a different route to being optimized. But they all lead to the same emotionally optimized human. It's not self-expression. It is character selection with affiliate links, and that is the product. And that is exactly why everyone online eventually starts looking weirdly the same. Not identical on the surface, obviously. One person is soft, one is disciplined, One is healed, one is expensive, but after a while they all start blending into the same human template with slightly different lighting presets. Same morning drink, same clean counters, same emotionally curated bookshelf, same words, same pacing, same suspiciously calm tone that says, "I have transcended chaos," even though you know this person has cried over a package being delayed. That is what happens when mass individuality gets sold through the same algorithmic funnel. Everyone tries to become unique by buying from the same fantasy warehouse. So the clothes change, the captions change, the accessories change, but the vibe stays hauntingly familiar. It is like the internet is running a giant factory that keeps producing different people out of the exact same emotional mold. Individuality, but make it batch processed. A lot of the time, it is not really about living the life. It is about being seen as the kind of person who has the life. That is a very different religion. You do not just want peace, you want to look peaceful. You do not just want balance, you want to be readable as balanced. You want your discipline to photograph well. You want other people to feel that you are the kind of person who has figured something out. That is the real flex. Not internal calm, but visible calm. Not actual healing, but legible healing. Not real self-worth, but premium self-worth branding. That is why so much of online self-improvement feels less like growth and more like identity theater. The real victory is looking like someone whose life would be expensive to ruin. And the reason this machine keeps working forever is painfully simple. It does not sell products. It sells emotional rescue in aesthetic packaging. It tells tired people that peace is purchasable, lost people that identity is choosable, and overwhelmed people that chaos can be fixed if they just arrange their life correctly. That promise is insanely hard to resist because most people are not looking at this content and thinking, "Wow, nice mug." They are thinking, maybe if I do life like that, I will finally stop feeling like a badly assembled person. That is the real market. Not skincare, not journals, not matching kitchenware for women recovering from invisible disappointment. The real market is hope. Hope that the distance between who you are and who you should have been can be closed with routines, products, and one very clean countertop. That is why everybody online keeps selling the same life, because people keep buying the same hope. So here is the verdict. Everyone online is secretly selling the same life. The internet knows what you want and what you're afraid you don't have. You want peace, beauty, control, the feeling that your life makes sense. You want to feel assembled, correct, so the internet packages that into aesthetics. One version wears linen. One version whispers about alignment. But the product is the same. A fantasy of becoming someone whose life finally belongs to them. It doesn't sell reality, it sells relief shaped like identity. The more you try to buy a unique life, the more you end up the same. Performing the same dream. Subscribe, please. I'm working after death.